Hello and welcome to this Rec Room printer tutorial. I'm gonna show you how you can print high quality pictures in Rec Room for free with the printer I have made. Now, this does require a Windows PC. Now, the first step you will have to do is installing Python, which is a coding language. So the easiest way to do is just by going to the Microsoft Store and typing in a Python and downloading it. Or you could also go to the Python website and download it from there, but then you have to download it, then set it up, so it takes a little bit more time. But if you want to do that, I have provided the link in the description. Okay, so the next part is you have to download the actual code for the printer. Now the code can be found on GitHub in my page. You can either search for my name, which is Lakufin, or just search for Rec Room Dorm Printer. Or you can go through the link in the description. Now, once you're on the page, you have to click the little green button and then download as zip. Now, once it's downloaded, you can right click on the file, press extract all, extract it to a folder wherever you want. I put it on desktop. Then you can actually open the folder. Then there will be a readme file. You can just ignore that since you're watching this video already. Just open the other folder and then you should see a bunch of folders with different names. Now these are for different steps in the printing process. Now first we will have to go to the data folder where there should be a Python file and the name of it is download modules. Now you can just go ahead and click on that. Now you will see a window pop up. There's gonna be a bunch of things. You don't have to worry about that necessarily, but every time you see the word next, then you have to click enter for it to proceed. Now you will have to do this a couple of times. Some processes may take more than others, but you should have this done in maybe a couple of minutes. Then finally it will say the word finish, and then you will just have to press enter one more time and all is good. Now next up you're gonna have to go to Rec Room, just open it up, and then on your maker pen you're gonna go to the palette and search for string variable chip, and you can just go ahead and spawn that in. Now once you spawned it in, just put the connect tool, then you can go ahead and open File Explorer again, and again in the data folder you can Calibrate string importing, then you can just activate it. Now window is gonna pop up, it's gonna tell you some stuff, you don't have to worry about it. Just go ahead back to Rec Room and click on the input field of the variable. Now next you are gonna have to put your cursor in the white value field, just basically anywhere, and then quickly press Q. Now you will know if everything worked. You can open the little window, and if there's numbers and some more text, then everything went well. Then you can then you need to put your cursor outside the MakerPen UI. You can either side. Technically, you could put also top or bottom, but they're too small. I would recommend right or. And then once your cursor is on the right or left side, completely outside the MakerPen UI, just press Q one more time, and then you should know if it worked if the little window has closed. Now for the next part we are gonna calibrate the color implementation first. You will need to make sure you're on the classic control scheme. You will know what control scheme or if it's the correct one if your MakerPen menu opens with F. And once you confirm that, then you can take the recolor tool and just make sure the little side scroll thing is at the top. Then go to again data folder, then calibrate color importing. Now it's gonna do the same thing as before, tell you some stuff. You don't want to worry, just put your cursor on the little color button and again press Q. Now then you can actually press on the color, and so this pops up. Then put your cursor on custom and again Q. Then you can again press custom. Now put your cursor on the little input hex white field, press Q again, and then finally outside the MakerPen UI on either side. And once the window has closed, you know everything has been recorded. Now next up you will have to find this profile, or I would suggest you do. So you won't have to search up each invention on its own. You can just search up Laku PvP. Now the first invention you're gonna have to get is the image printer 1.0. This is the actual printer system. So you just need to get it and then use this spawn button. That's pretty important. Then you'll need to get the printer pens 130 colors and then printer delay tester. This one is optional, but suggest you do take it. Once you spawned in, you're just gonna at first head over to the tester, and I would suggest just attaching, well, the way that I'm currently attaching them, so to the corresponding inputs and outputs. You don't have to worry about anything else right now. Now how this is gonna work is the printer delay tester is basically a small image data that you will have to basically visually confirm that it places every pixel. If you notice there is a it doesn't matter, but just a small skip on the pixels, you notice that, then you know that the delay is too little, or one of the delays is too little. The delays can differ from device to device. Uh, Obviously, the smaller it is, the faster it will be, and yeah. So you just have to visually calibrate basically. First, I would suggest putting it pretty low, not too low, obviously. Then just kind of trying to pinpoint the perfect for you. Uh, Now, obviously, um, it may not matter. Depends what kind of images you will be printing, and but for example, it may save a couple of hours if you have a really big image. Obviously, it depends if it matters much. For example, I usually leave it printing for overnight, so I don't actually have to deal with anything. Um, but it is still good to have well delay. The most important thing is it's not too slow, so it doesn't miss any pixels. Otherwise, it will not look so good. Now, most of the time, the delay, if you notice there's gaps, that's probably gonna be the main delay that needs to be increased. Sometimes it is the side delay, but I would first go with the main delay. Now, once you notice that it can perfectly color in every pixel, especially on the first row that it's gonna draw, it should draw every single pixel. Now, once it does that and you feel like you don't need to lower it anymore, then you can just go ahead and delete the tester. Uh, Now you just have to use the little interaction volume, that's the most right, and then respawn pens, and then you can save the room, and now you have the delay calibrated. Now, everything we have done up to this point, you luckily don't have to do again unless you switch the devices basically, which is good. But that also means that everything from this point on you will have to do every time you print a new image. Okay, now once you found your image you want to print, I would suggest doing some prepping work, which is copy the image, go to a site called Photopea, will be linked in the description. Um then there you can use free transform to scale it. I would always suggest an image under 900 because the Rec Room canvases, for example, the square canvas is 1000 by 1000 pixels, so any more than that it just won't work. Um Also, let your image have a always have your image have some kind of background, especially if you have like a character or something, because of the way the printer draws. Um, if you leave it blank background, that'll do some stuff which makes the bottom and the right sides, the last row pixels, become thicker than the other pixels. Now, it doesn't really show if you have a background, especially if the background blends with the rest of it. But yeah, if you have a single character, it will show. So once you're done prepping it, you can just export it, and once you've exported it, just bring it over to the images folder that can be found in the printer folder. Now, also to note, if you're printing on a shirt, in the images folder, you can also find an shirt background. Basically, you can just use it freely to kind of model, make sure your image fits and everything, align it perfectly with the shirt. If you're making it, you could just choose in Photopea or open and place, and then you can just place it, make sure it's on top though, then you can see that outline of the shirt and the back, and you can just make sure your image fits. I'm not gonna be doing that because I'm printing on a canvas on this one, but that's just a little help thing if you want. Now, I would not suggest making your image perfect, like pixel to pixel fit, mainly because it can be a little bit hard to align the picture perfectly with the shirt, or for front or back of the shirt. But this will give you like a rough outline basically. Now, once you have your image, you can just, we'll start with the best way to compile it. Just open the first color compiler updated. Then it will ask you to select the image. Then it will ask you how many colors you want it to reduce to. The standard and the max is 130. That's the most you can do. Then it's gonna ask you about how you want to compile it. There's three options, which is 0, 1, and 2. 0 is what I usually go for, or 2. Those are the best ones. Some special occasions will need 2. I mean 1. Now, then basically different ways it's gonna collect the colors. So when you look at the result, if you like it, if you don't, then you can just change it, compile again. Then once you press enter, it'll get the colors and compile them. Then you're just gonna open the image compiler, then it select the same image again. Then you can just press enter and it'll start compiling the colors. Then once it's done, it's gonna tell you some stuff, for example how many lists you need. That'll come important a little bit later, so just keep that in mind. Then it's gonna tell you the resolution, which you will need to know, but that can be figured out later, and just by going to the image properties. And then the window will also tell you how long the string importing is gonna take, so you can kind of plan for that. Now you have the result in the folder. You can just open up and see if you like the quality. Now that is the best way to do it. Next I will explain the two other ways you can compile the image, so you can just skip ahead if you plan on using the best way. Now, the second way you can do it is using the default colors. These are the ones that the pens that you spawn in already have, so you can skip the color importing basically. And it's pretty easy, just as you do choose an image and then start compiling and wait a little bit, it's done. Now the third way, first you take the color compiler, you just launch it, then it will ask you how what's the minimum amount a pixel is allowed to have. So depending on the size, it can be 10 to 100. Then it asks what's the difference between pixels, so how much does a pixel have to actually kind of change. This is good to be 5, 10, 20, maybe even 30 in some rare cases, and then just let it compile. Now once that's done, then you can go to the remove colors. Then it asks you what do you want to reduce it to. Again, 130 is the good max. Then once that's done, then just compile image compiler different system and do the same thing as before basically. Then you have it. Now that you have your image compiled, next up you're gonna have to import the strings. So to import them, you have to go search up a map called import printer strings, as you can see on the screen. Just go to that. Now here is where the listing needs to be remembered, or where it matters. Basically, the number you're giving is the minimum amount of list there needs to be. So in this case it's 1, so I would go to 10. But if it was, let's say, 16, then I would go to 20 and so on. Now also, if it does give you a perfect number, let's say 10, then still go to the 20, just because it might be a little bit over and the number doesn't show that. Now once you're in here, just head over, grab your maker pen. You can see there's one button, it'll reset the seat if you need to reset. Then there's another button which I will explain later, but just go ahead and sit in that seat. Take the trigger handle, as you can see, on your right hand. Then on your left hand, take the maker pen. Then you go open the maker pen menu, take the edit tool and edit that chip that I just clicked. Then choose the connect tool and point straight at the first input on the list, just like this. Then head over to File Explorer and go to the import folder, and from there import strings. Now it'll tell you a bunch of stuff, you don't have to worry about it, you just know you have to be in this position, just like this. Now to activate this, as you can see, it doesn't activate straight away, but as soon as you click enter for this, it'll activate. And then once it's activated, when you click on the game, it will automatically start importing the strings. So while you're clicking, or just don't move your mouse accidentally. Also, if you notice something go wrong while importing, both the importing processes, this string importing right now and the color importing later, Both have a force quit button. Basically, if you hold down Q for I don't know, couple of seconds, it'll quit the importing, and right now it should be doing the same thing. It's happening for me. It's gonna just go down. It may take, depending on image, it can take minutes to. For big images, it can take up to hours. It did tell you how long it goes when you compile. Now, once it's done, you'll know because it stops doing it. You can just drop your trigger handle and get out of the seat. Now, especially for big images, you will probably encounter this. Sometimes it fails to import. The couple of strings. You'll notice empty lines. That's the button is right is for. You can press that and it'll tell you if there's missing strings. Now, if there is, then here's what you need to do. First of all, you need to find the spot. Then the one input above it, you can click on that. Then take the bottom, like a part of the last characters, semi-long. Then you go ahead and head over to your data folder. There should be a file called strings. Open that, preferably using Notepad. Then press Ctrl F. It'll bring up this search function. Paste the text used is copied. It'll find the spot for you. Then you just mark it with a couple of spaces or lines. So it'll be easier to find it. Then just to make sure you actually have the right series of letters, it's best to then go back to the game and take the one right under it, copy the first part or a little bit first, then go back to the notepad, again paste it in the input field and then find it just to make sure it's the right part and mark it again. Now you should have this long character. You just copy that and then go back into the game and paste that in the empty input. Now once that's done, then you can just save the circuit board that it contains the things alone. You can just save that and send invention. It'll tell you a little bit message. You can see, ignore that. I like to categorize these by saying string and then what the picture is about. That way they're all organized. But do how you like. Then once that's saved, you can go back to the dorm room. Now, once you're in a dorm room, you can just go ahead and grab your makeup pen, go to your inventions and find the string chip that you just saved. You can just spawn it in here and then attach using the connect tool the corresponding inputs and outputs like I'm doing right now. Then it's once it's connected, Actually, let me explain a little bit first. So there's a bunch of things that you can change now. There's obviously the width and the height, which need to be the exact same that the image has. But then there's pixel size. That's the one that determines the actual size of the image. That's like the scale. So if you need to make a smaller image or adjust it, though I do recommend you keep it at that 0.02 or very close to that at least. Now there's also the 1 pixel draw. I do not recommend that you turn it on. It does provide a little bit better image quality, but takes many times as long as the normal way. That's why I don't really recommend it. The trade-off is not good. Now, to import the colors, you just use the interaction volume and press import. It'll teleport you here with the everything in hand. Just point at the pen that's pointing at you, like I'm doing now. Then go to your folder and imports. Then you just open it. Now, for this, you will have to remember to have your recolor tool on and the sidebar thing to the top. And as you can see, it'll just start importing. Now again, if something goes wrong, just hold down Q and then it'll stop it and then you can retry. But do remember, always before importing, you need to choose the respawn pens option from the interaction volume, otherwise it will not work. Now once they are imported, you'll know once it stops. Next up, you just gotta get the resolution. Now you can just go to the image properties and get these and just change the values on the inputs like I'm doing right now. Again, next up you're gonna have to align well the way you want it. Also note that since the canvas comes with the invention, you can't sell it, so switch it if you want to sell your prints. Now to align the canvas, you can always move the canvas, or you can move there's a little trigger volume in the upper left corner. You can also move that. Now obviously you need to move the corner, especially if you're using a shared drawing board. This is what you do if you're using a board. Just put it up against the orange thing, then freeze it, then you can enlarge it. Now, as I said, there's this little trigger volume in the corner. You can just move that. That will determine basically where the upper left corner is, so you can move it anywhere. And though you cannot rotate it, just remember that. And then you can obviously change the pixel size if you want to really adjust the image. Now after this you gotta kind of adjust it. So I will see what I'm doing here, kind of adjusting the distance between the pen and the canvas. Put it somewhere like that, then start the printing process. Then you obviously won't hear it. Now put it as close to the pens as you can without it putting any sound. Then start clicking the set forward until you hear it. Then you can press a couple more times just to make sure, and then you can just restart the process. That way you get the best image quality. Now it's gonna show some numbers to you. It's gonna show how much progress it's done, and then it's gonna show how much it estimates that it's gonna take. This number can be sometimes a little bit misleading, but a lot of times it can be very useful. And the last is how many pixels it draws per second. This tells a bit about your PC's performance. Then when you're printing very large pictures and going AFK, you should go to the other folder and select auto clicker, just turn it on, and it'll click every about 5 seconds for you, and it'll keep your PC awake and rec room awake. You can quit it by holding down Q again. Also go to your offline dorm if you're afraid that you might disconnect. You can do that by disconnecting your internet, then it will send you to your offline dorm. Now you know it's done when the text disappears, and then you can just save that what you printed just then. Well, there you go, a full tutorial. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.